Jamaicans will go to the polls on Monday, February 26 for the 2024 local government elections. Voting is the right of every citizen, and employees who intend to cast their ballots tomorrow are entitled to 3 hours time off from work. This is in addition to their usual lunch hour. In addition to voting tips, we'll be discussing steps that are being taken to improve our mangroves, which are at risk of diminishing. Hello there. Welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your host. Do stay tuned.
One of the problems that occurred in the past was the significant delay in the issuing of warrants for persons who did not pay at the tax office and did not attend the court. And so what happened there was that a culture of impunity had developed, where persons felt that when they received a ticket from the police, they could simply ignore it. So where we are now is that we are now current with the issuing of warrants in respect of the current cases. So what that means is that for persons who do not pay at the tax office, don't attend the court, the warrants are being issued and will be issued, and you will be arrested and brought before the court. If you do not wish to come to court, then go to the tax office. Also, you have the option of contesting it, so you don't pay at the tax office, but you must turn up at court on the date and time stated in the summons. Failing that, a warrant will be issued and you will be brought before the court.
228 electoral divisions are to be contested in tomorrow's local government elections, where councillors and mayors will be elected to develop, manage and maintain infrastructure and public facilities island-wide. 2016 was the last time local government elections were held. Since then, the elections, which are constitutionally due every 4 years, have been postponed on 3 occasions since November 2020 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. With the election now almost at hand, this week's Get the Facts is focused on voting and election procedures. Director of Elections, Glaspole Brown, is here to fill us in. Let's get the facts.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Jamaicans will go to the polls to vote in political representatives at the local government level on February 26, 2024. For the next few minutes, we will tell you about the procedure and the management of the electoral process and the status of the various components of our free and fair electoral system. The Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, is responsible for protecting the electoral process. And here with us to share more information on Get the Facts is Director of Elections at the ECJ, Mr. Glaspole Brown. Welcome to the program, Sir Brown.
Good to be here.
All right, let's jump right into getting the facts. Now, before we talk about the electoral process itself, I would like to ask you to give us an idea of what is it that the ECJ does and the role it takes in the electoral process.
All right, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica was established in 2006. Prior to that, they had what is known as the AAC, which was an advisory body.
Okay.
The mandate is a commission of parliament. Therefore, the commission, ECJ, reports directly to the parliament. The mandate to the commission, based on the act itself, is to manage and execute elections. That's the main mandate. And we're tasked with the responsibility of executing referendum, etc.
Right, right.
So that's our main role that we probably undertake.
Okay, okay. So moving now to the current pregnant atmosphere, local government elections. I want a big picture of how it looks on the ground. How many registered voters we have right now? On
the current voters list, we have approximately 2.1 electors registered. Yeah. The process, we do continuous registration. Therefore, an individual can walk into our constituency office any day, right, and get registered. Okay. The process takes some time because we have to undergo the process of residency verification. Right, right. So we are tasked with that. So it's done on a continuous basis. So we have roughly 70 plus offices across the island, wide network of offices across the island.
Okay, okay. So 2.1 million, you had said.
2.1 million
right.
registered voters.
Registered voters. And candidates vying for the elections and the constituencies, how does that look? We have a number?
But in terms of the upcoming local government election, 499 persons have been nominated.
All right.
Out of that, you have a third party is not part of the process.
Okay.
That is the UIC. So you have now the JLP, the PMP, and the UIC.
UIC.
And there's approximately 37 independent candidates sought to be nominated. So we have roughly 499 candidates. They are vying for 298 divisions, plus the Portmore mayoral position.
Yes.
Over in Portmore, you have 3 persons vying for that position in the upcoming election.
Right, right. Sir, it sounds like it's a lot. It's a big field. There's a lot of people involved. How ready is the ECJ?
Well, we are fairly ready in terms of where we want to be at this point in time. Certainly, it's a large operation. You engage in excess of 30,000 persons to assist in the process on the day itself.
Could you tell us a little bit more about these 30,000 people? What will they be doing?
The 36 is made up of the police, the army, the soldiers, and the election day workers.
Okay.
So the JCF and the JDF will more be providing security.
Right.
And assist us in the process of crowd control, etc.
Yeah, people management.
Right, people management on the outside. And then the other individuals, the election day workers, that is made up of the poll clerks, the presiding officers, and the supervisors, and the other person, logistics coordinators, the cleaners, etc., etc. So within the polling station itself, there's a small team there. The presiding officers, the poll clerks are the main persons, plus the representatives of the different agents of the candidates.
Right.
So the poll clerks now and the presiding officer now undertake the whole process in guiding the electors or the voters in terms of the process.
Right.
So they issue the necessary instruction, issue the ballots, etc., and carry them through the process in terms of to the point of casting your ballot, and then returning the ballot to them after having gone behind the voting booth, and then drop that ballot in the voting box.
So the whole process, start to finish, we have people helping out there.
That's correct.
This 36,000, how many polling stations are we talking about?
We're looking at approximately, and the exact figure is 6,726 polling stations across the island.
Okay.
Will be in operation on the day, on the 26th of February. On
the day itself, the 26th, how is the voting public expected to conduct themselves?
All right, we expect you to obey our instructions, and the instruction that comes from our officers. What we'd like to say to the public first, before you even come to the polling station,
yes,
you need to determine and ensure that you know exactly where your polling station is located.
And how do I do that?
You could do that by, one, you could call our offices, any of our 70 offices across the island, or you could call our main office at Duke Street.
Yes.
Or you could go on our website, which is www.ecj.com.jm.
Okay.
And you'll get all information. Just follow the instruction when you log on to our website. And then they'll carry through the process and guide you and tell you exactly where your voting polling station is. When you enter the polling station, what we'll require of you as an elector is that the presiding officer will ask for your ID card. So therefore, you would present your ID card. But let me just pause here, though. If you don't have a new ID card, or you don't have any ID card at all, you will still be allowed to vote.
Yes.
As long as you're on the voters list.
Oh.
As long as your name appears on the voters list, you will be allowed to cast your ballot.
But there might be...
It's your right to do so.
But it might take a bit more time for you to be verified as such.
Correct. In other words, if you don't have your voter's ID card, the presiding officer will go through a process. In other words, we have the mechanism within the polling station to identify you.
Right.
We have what is known as a black book. What a black book entails is details, a copy of your ID card, and other pertinent information.
Got it. Sir Brown, I have to break in now. We're going to go to a break, but we're getting some fascinating information about the voting process, which we are all encouraged to take part in coming February 26th. Please, we're going to come right back, so stay with us.
Did you know you can vote without your new voter ID card? Once you're registered to vote, that is, your name is on the voters list, you can vote in the upcoming local government election. If you don't have your new ID card, simply go to your polling station on election day and our trained election day workers will assist you. This message is brought to you by the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're continuing our electoral process conversation with Director of Elections, Mr. Glasspool Brown. Mr. Brown, before we broke, we were talking about the process of voting, and we're at the point of what will happen if you have your card and what will happen if you don't. Take us through the rest of it.
All right. Having satisfied the presiding officer that you're the person that is standing in front of them in terms of the name on the list.
Yes.
The presiding officer then proceed to give you certain direction in terms of present to you the ballot.
Yes.
And point out to you the different candidates, and so direct you behind the voting booth. You are then required to go behind the voting booth to do your selections,
yes,
and then return. The presiding officer will guide you how to vote that ballot. You must not come back to the presiding officer with an exposed ballot. Or the presiding officer, nobody in that polling station should see your markings on the ballot.
Yes.
So you'll be guided to fold it out in the proper way. Then you return it to the presiding officer, who will then guide you or instruct you to immerse your finger into the ink.
Mm-hmm.
Having done that, the presiding officer then deposit your ballot in the ballot box and then wish you greetings for the rest of the day.
Okay. And what's the expectation after the vote itself? Are you expected to leave the premises? That
right.
Sort of thing?
Our expectation should leave the premises and then go and wait for the results.
Understood. Understood. Now, one thing I noticed about what you've described is there's a great deal of privacy involved.
Right.
You mentioned not having the exposed ballot. And I know it says that all eligible citizens have the right to vote freely and in secret. The law says that. Could you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, it is based on a principle of universal adult suffrage. That is, and the principle that it is that the right to vote is universal.
Right.
You know, as long as you're a citizen and reach and you satisfy certain criteria. The main one being that you're a Jamaican citizen and you're 18 and over.
Yeah.
Then you have a right to so cast your thing. And it has to be done in secret, and it is not, and your right to vote is not transferable to anybody. And therefore, the process requires that the process be done personally and in secret.
So I as perhaps an elderly person, I can't send my grandson with my ID to go vote for me. If
you have certain disability, the grandson or the friend can assist you, but you have to be there.
Personally.
Right.
You mentioned universal adult suffrage. I understand there are about 6 principles. You gave us 2 a while ago.
Yeah, there are roughly 6 principles. The vote is free, the vote is secret, it's not transferable, and it's universal.
Belongs to everybody.
They encompass all of those.
Okay. So election day is still a work day, as we had discussed, and the workers are entitled for time to go off and cast their vote, right?
Right. And I want to stress this point in the sense that every elector is so granted by the law a time period of 3 hours to cast their ballot.
3 hours? 3 hours.
Okay. However, there's some proviso there in the sense that if your shift starts at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. that is, you have no right to those 3 hours. In order to assume that between 7 and 10, you would have gone and cast your ballot. If your shift ends or starts at 2 p.m., you'll not be entitled to that 3 hours. Because you assume that if it ends at 2, therefore you have a timeline of 2 to 5, 3 hours span to get it. But by law, and it is clear in the regulations of ROPA, that employers are expected, are required to allow their employees, whoever want to go and cast their ballot, they are entitled to a 3 hours break to go and do so.
Indeed. So as we give this information to the employers, and I had wanted to ask about the training of the election day workers as well, because all of this is a system that has to work and like a well-oiled machine. Yes.
Right. Well, we do carry our workers through extensive training. We have at least minimum 6 sessions, and these sessions last 3 hours each. So you're talking about roughly 18 hours of training, and also we have so each EDW, election day worker, is given a manual. They are so also exposed to a training video that outside of those 18 hours, they can so continue the training process. So we do prepare them them in terms of what is required, guided by the ROPA, the Representative of the People's Act.
So the public can be confident that those that are serving them are well knowledgeable and able to guide them.
As per the electoral laws, yes.
Okay. We're almost at the end of this discussion, but I want to talk about the idea of the merging of the Political Ombudsman Office into the ECJ. Give us some details about that.
Just a brief comment, in the sense that, okay, I guess when you do good work, you also reward with additional work.
Yes.
So in recent times, the Commission has been asked to take on additional role. One role that was given to the Commission recently is the Commission is now the inspectorate for NIRA. NIRA being the entity that will now govern the operation of the NIDS.
Right.
So the Commission has been recently appointed the inspectorate in terms of they are now the National Identification Registration Inspectorate. The management of that inspectorate are the commissioners of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica.
Okay.
So the ombudsman, we have been given that task. It's new in terms of we are trying to put the necessary things in place to get it up and running. And I can say the Commission is up to that task. It's fairly new now, early days yet, but there are a number of things that the Commissioner has put in place to deal with that responsibility that has now been given to them by Parliament.
By Parliament. Right. We're going to have to bring you back to talk about, or somebody back to talk about the Political Ombudsman a bit more, but we're almost at the end of this interview. The persons who will be voting, the election day workers, the whole Jamaican public is watching this program. Could you take a few seconds and give them your final word?
My final word is basically to urge everybody to be a part of the process. We have spent a lot of money, time, and work in putting the process together. And therefore, when we prepare for an election, we prepare for 100% turnout. So whenever the turnout is low, it means that a considerable amount of resources and money, etc., would have been wasted. And therefore, we urge persons to so be a part of the process. It is your right to vote on election day, and we urge you to come out on the 26th and cast your ballot. We'll ensure from Electoral Commission end to put everything in place to make it be safe and secure for you on that day.
And to freely exercise your right to vote in secret. Thank you, Mr. Brown, so much for joining us on Get the Facts. Remember to visit the ECJ website, ecj.gov.jm, for more information. As he had stated, you do need to know where you need to go. That's a great point to start. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest has been the Director of Elections, Mr. Glasspool Brown. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.
Mangroves, those seemingly ugly shrubs blinding our otherwise serene view of the coast, are more important than we tend to think. Yes, they protect us from climate effects and foster the livelihoods of many Jamaicans. But as usual, nature is at risk because of our man-made decisions. So, what is to be done? The 4-year Jamaica Mangrove Plus project is tasked with repairing and preserving the country's mangroves to safeguard the population from environmental threats. Let's listen to the steps being taken.
Imagine you have a plant which can take salt water and take fresh water out of it. You therefore need to salute that plant because it is able to find the own water that it needs from salt water that it's literally sitting in. It doesn't need to run away or escape. That gives it a niche specialization, which means others can't complete. Well, mangroves do that. Imagine you have a plant where it says, okay, I'm going to take in all the salt water and I'm going to just sequester all the salt and push it into a special area. Compartmentalization. Mangroves do that.
Mangroves are tropical and subtropical plants that live primarily in coastal environments. They are a crucial component of Jamaica's coastal ecosystem. There are 4 types of mangroves: red, black, white, and buttonwood. They all help to safeguard us from the many environmental threats our country faces. Mangrove forests provide over 200 documented uses worldwide. In Jamaica, they control erosion, improve water quantity, trap soil and sediments, protect coral reefs, and build up the land. Without them, the health of our coastal environment would be in jeopardy, as they build barriers to help safeguard communities and livelihoods from the rushing waves of the sea. They provide a nursery ground and habitat for fish and other species. Jamaica's mangroves also provide ecotourism opportunities and support livelihoods. Mangrove forests are among the most carbon-rich ecosystems globally, and they play a critical role in the fight against climate change. Between 2017 and 2021, there was a net loss of 16.9 hectares of mangroves, despite efforts to restore 2.7 hectares.
A significant portion of lost mangroves in Jamaica is estimated to be potentially restorable. However, recent losses emphasizes the urgency of effective conservation and restoration initiatives to address the ongoing challenges.
The documented losses are associated with both permitted and unplanned developments. Environmental threats include rising temperatures, decreased rainfall, and projected sea level rise, leading to increased water salinity in mangroves, which poses a risk of mangrove dieback.
For the first time in our history as a country, we have taken deliberate and concrete steps to codify strategies and actions geared at guiding our efforts to sustainably manage and protect the wetland forests remaining in Jamaica.
That plan is the Jamaica Mangrove Plus project. The project emphasizes a biodiversity-positive approach to ensure the sustainable management of over 7,000 hectares of Jamaica's mangrove ecosystem. The initiative encompasses 3 core components: national mangrove policy strengthening, mangrove ecosystem restoration, as well as knowledge management, project monitoring, and evaluation. Among other things, the goal of the project is to restore health to mangrove habitats and establish new mangrove protected areas.
To achieve this goal, we will seek to make the necessary changes to policies, create a more conducive environment for mangrove sustainability, raise awareness among relevant stakeholders about the significance of mangroves, create and popularize maps to illustrate wetland forests, proposed zones and areas under consideration for preservation and restoration. Develop a dedicated website to provide real-time updates on the status of management of wetland forests. Designate areas for protection and, importantly, rehabilitate and restore degraded areas.
Conservation should be our major goal, considering all we've already taken out, the value that we know it has, its intrinsic and future value, and how slowly, I don't want to say how poorly, but how slowly our restoration happens. It is incumbent on us to use the valuations by whatever means you consider, whether monetary, whether socially, whether environmentally, to conserve that which we have.
Establishing new mangrove protected areas and restoring ecosystems not only safeguards key habitats and species, but also the well-being of coastal and inland communities whose livelihoods depend on these vital ecosystems. The project's significance extends beyond the local context with clear links to climate change adaptation and mitigation. Mangroves act as natural buffers against the impacts of climate change, providing essential protection from hurricanes and storm surges. By investing in mangrove restoration and protection, Jamaica is taking a proactive step towards building resilience in the face of climate-related challenges.
Calling all creators, join the JIS Creators Challenge.
We want to see your unique perspective on why you love Jamaica.
Whether it's through a Jamaican adventure, arts and craftsmanship, or Jamaican cuisine.
A party lifestyle or a celebration of our Otamaniwan people culture.
Unleash your creativity in a video 1 minute or less, showcasing why you love Jamaica.
Upload your video to your socials and tag JIS by March 8th.
Follow us on all our platforms for more info
on how to enter and prizes to be won. Stay tuned!
Last year, we saw over 13,000 victims. However, I am conscious and I'm aware that there are many more. There are children, there are victims in our community that are struggling with the reality of crime and trauma. Some of them individually and directly, and some of them indirectly in the community which they live. I would like to challenge you who are listening, watching this program, to make an effort to call the VSD, the Victim Services Division in the Ministry of Justice. Encourage these children to get help. Encourage, cause us to know so we can reach out to them to get help. The numbers to call are 876-618-3620 or 876-946-2014. Healing and justice for all victims of crime is not just our concern, but it should be the concern of all of us.
And this is where we end today's show. To catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website, jis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.